The grand ballroom gleamed with gold and crystal, a breathtaking display of power and wealth. The chandeliers reflected in the polished marble floors, scattering light like diamonds across the crowd. Ethan Grant stood at the center of it all, tall, confident, and perfectly composed. His tuxedo was tailored to perfection, his smile calculated for the cameras flashing endlessly around him. Tonight marked the 10th anniversary of Grant Enterprises, and every corner of the city's elite world had shown up to celebrate. Politicians raised champagne glasses, journalists whispered behind notepads, and socialites draped in designer gowns hovered near Ethan, desperate for attention. But amidst all the laughter and toasts, one question lingered in hushed tones. Where was Sophia Grant? Ethan's wife, known for her grace and quiet intelligence, hadn't been seen in months. Some said she was on bed rest, others whispered she was pregnant and heartbroken. Ethan avoided every mention of her with a smooth laugh and a sip of champagne. Across the stage, Lena Moore, his mistress, stood in a striking red gown that left little to the imagination. Her eyes locked on Ethan's, bold and provocative. The crowd noticed. Phones lifted. The tension was electric, the kind that precedes either a proposal or a public disaster. And somewhere in that glittering chaos, fate waited patiently for its cue. As the final notes of the orchestra's melody drifted into silence, all eyes turned to the stage where Ethan Grant stepped forward, glass of champagne in hand. His voice carried easily across the room, smooth, practiced, and full of charm. "Tonight," he began, smiling at the sea of glittering faces, "we celebrate 10 years of success, friendship, and most importantly, love and loyalty." The audience erupted in polite applause, cameras flashing as if capturing a flawless moment of triumph. But behind that smile, Ethan's arrogance gleamed like polished steel. Lena stood nearby, her red gown catching the light, her lips curling into a knowing smirk. Then, in one reckless heartbeat that silenced the room, Ethan turned toward her, slipped an arm around her waist, and kissed her, deep, passionate, and shamelessly possessive. Gasps rippled through the crowd like thunder. A few hands shot up to cover mouths. Others fumbled for their phones. Within seconds, the flashes turned blinding. The whispers became chaos. Social media ignited instantly. Posts, hashtags, live streams, all screaming the same thing. Ethan Grant kisses Mistress on stage. What he thought would be bold confidence now looked like cruelty. Even the orchestra members froze, instruments hanging midair. The applause had died completely. The guests weren't charmed anymore. They were horrified. And though Ethan smiled, proud of his display, he had no idea that somewhere closer than he imagined, his sins were moments away from meeting their reckoning. As Ethan lowered the microphone, still riding the thrill of his scandalous display, the massive ballroom doors swung open with a resonant echo that silenced every whisper. Heads turned in unison, and time seemed to slow. Standing in the golden doorway was Sophia Grant. Her elegance struck the crowd like a quiet storm. She glowed beneath the crystal lights, dressed in a flowing ivory gown that framed her visibly pregnant form. Her hand rested protectively on her belly, her chin lifted in unshakable grace. But it wasn't just her presence that held the room captive. It was the man walking beside her. Alexander Reed, the commanding CEO of Reed Global Industries, known for his power and integrity, stood tall at her side. Their entrance together sent a visible jolt through the audience. The woman Ethan had tried to erase was now reclaiming the night, not with drama, but with dignity. Ethan's smirk faltered. His hand slipped from Lena's waist. Cameras turned from the stage toward Sophia, the flashes now illuminating her face. Murmurs rippled across the hall, no longer tainted with pity, but charged with admiration. Sophia didn't need to say a word. Her mere arrival spoke volumes. The queen had entered her own battlefield. The ballroom felt frozen in time as Sophia began her slow, deliberate walk toward the stage. Each click of her heels echoed like a heartbeat in the thick, suffocating silence. Guests parted instinctively, clearing her path as camera flashes lit the way. Ethan's confidence visibly faltered with every step she took. When she finally reached the foot of the stage, she tilted her head slightly, her calm composure sharper than any rage. "Quite the performance," she said softly, her voice carrying effortlessly through the microphone still in Ethan's trembling hand. The words were calm, but they burned with precision. Every eye turned to Ethan. Beside him, Lena stiffened, gripping his arm like a shield, but Sophia didn't even glance at her. "I came to support my husband," she continued, her tone cool and measured, "but I see he's already found someone to play his leading lady." The room filled with gasps and whispers. Dozens of phones were raised now, capturing every syllable. Ethan's face turned pale. "Sophia, this isn't," he began, voice cracking under pressure. But she lifted her hand gracefully, silencing him with a single gesture. Then she turned toward the audience, her gaze sweeping across the powerful, the gossipers, the cameras. "Let this be a reminder," she said clearly. "Betrayal thrives only where silence lives." The words struck like thunder, raw, fearless truth echoing off marble walls. Alexander stepped beside her, resting a steadying hand on her back. The applause that erupted wasn't polite. It was victorious. Within hours of the scandalous gala, the internet ignited like wildfire. Every major outlet splashed the same explosive headline across their front pages. "Millionaire kisses Mistress. Pregnant wife crashes Gala with CEO." Clips of the confrontation spread across social media faster than wildfire. Millions watched in disbelief as Sophia, elegant and unshaken, delivered her cutting line that now trended globally. "Betrayal thrives only where silence lives." The footage replayed endlessly, on talk shows, news broadcasts, and podcasts dissecting every gesture, every look. Feminist organizations praised Sophia's composure, calling her the embodiment of grace under fire. "She didn't shout," one commentator said. "She stood tall, and that terrified them more than anger ever could." Meanwhile, gossip sites had a field day with Alexander's protective stance. His gentle hand on her back, his firm expression, it all fueled endless speculation. Was there more than friendship between them? Back at Grant Enterprises, chaos erupted. Ethan's PR team scrambled to spin the story, releasing half-hearted statements about misunderstandings, but the damage was irreversible. His charm had turned to poison in the public eye. Lena fared no better. Brands terminated contracts overnight, calling her a liability. Through it all, Sophia said nothing. No interviews, no statements. Her silence became its own weapon, not weakness but control. While the world shouted, she chose stillness. And somehow, that silence spoke louder than any defense ever could. A few days after the gala, Sophia found herself standing in the sleek, glass-walled office of Alexander Reed. The city skyline shimmered behind him, but the atmosphere inside was calm, almost protective. He greeted her with a warm, steady smile, offering tea instead of sympathy. For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt safe enough to breathe. They sat across from each other, the silence between them filled with unspoken understanding. "I've admired your strength for years," Alexander said quietly. "You carried grace even when the world didn't deserve it." His sincerity disarmed her. No pity, no judgment, just truth. She looked down, tracing the rim of her cup before whispering, "I thought love meant patience. I thought if I endured long enough, it would prove I was loyal." Her voice trembled slightly, but she didn't stop. "I stayed because I thought he'd change. But now I see I'm the one who changed. And I'm not ashamed of that anymore." Alexander nodded, his gaze filled with respect. "Then don't let anyone else define your story, Sophia. Take it back. Build the life you were always meant to live." She smiled faintly, something in her chest beginning to heal. There was no romantic tension, no dramatic declarations, just two souls who understood pain and power. In that quiet office, under the hum of city lights, Sophia realized she didn't need to be saved. She only needed to be seen. As the days passed, the balance of power shifted completely. Sophia's quiet dignity became the world's fascination, the betrayed wife who refused to crumble. Hashtags celebrating her resilience trended worldwide, while talk shows praised her composure as a masterclass in strength. Meanwhile, Ethan Grant's empire began to rot from the inside out. Investors grew nervous, distancing themselves from the scandal that refused to fade. One by one, board members resigned, citing ethical concerns. Stock prices plunged. What had taken him years to build was unraveling within weeks. Lena, once smugly confident at his side, panicked as brands cut ties and photographers turned hostile. Under the weight of public backlash, she issued a statement claiming she had been misled and used. Her betrayal hit Ethan harder than he expected, not because he loved her, but because she mirrored his own cowardice. Desperate, Ethan sat before a camera in his dimly lit study and recorded an apology video. His voice cracked as he spoke of mistakes, redemption, and deep personal growth. But the world wasn't buying it. Headlines mocked him mercilessly. "He's not sorry, he's sorry he got caught." He tried calling Sophia again and again, but her number led to silence. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt the weight of true powerlessness. The control he once commanded with charm and arrogance had slipped away, leaving him alone with nothing but regret and the echo of his own downfall. While Ethan's world disintegrated, Sophia's began to bloom. With Alexander's strategic brilliance and her own quiet strength, she poured her energy into something greater than survival: transformation. Together, they launched the Grace Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping women rebuild their lives after betrayal, divorce, or public humiliation. Sophia personally led every meeting, her compassion and intellect inspiring the team that grew around her. What had once been a story of scandal was now becoming a movement. When she finally agreed to her first public interview, millions tuned in. Sitting gracefully on a cream-colored set, Sophia didn't play the victim. She spoke like a leader. "Pain can destroy you," she said, her calm voice carrying conviction, "or it can rebuild you into something unshakable." The clip went viral instantly. Her authenticity, her calm defiance, touched something deep within people around the world. She wasn't seeking pity, she was offering power. Within weeks, invitations flooded in: women's conferences, global leadership summits, even university lectures. Sophia's growing belly, once a source of whispered gossip, became a symbol of rebirth and resilience. She announced her first book, The Art of Walking Away, which sold out within days of release. The pages didn't dwell on Ethan's betrayal. They celebrated the rediscovery of self-worth. At the grand opening of the Grace Foundation, hundreds of women, journalists, and dignitaries filled the hall. Alexander stood beside her as she stepped to the podium, radiant and calm. "You cannot silence a woman who has learned her own value," she declared, her voice echoing through the hall. The audience rose to its feet, applauding with tears and admiration. Cameras flashed, immortalizing the moment. Sophia Grant, once humiliated in public, now the face of strength, standing taller than ever before. Ethan Grant's empire, once a monument to wealth and power, began to crumble faster than he could contain it. Lawsuits emerged from partners he had wronged, investors filed claims of fraud and breach of trust, and his company's board voted to remove him as CEO. His name, once synonymous with prestige, became a cautionary tale plastered across headlines. From millionaire to miserable, the fall of Ethan Grant. Major contracts dissolved overnight. His luxurious assets seized one by one. The mansion that had once been a symbol of success now echoed with emptiness. Cold marble, silent halls, and memories that haunted him. Sitting alone in his dimly lit living room, Ethan watched a live broadcast of Sophia's foundation event. She stood tall, radiant, and full of life, her words powerful and precise. The crowd hung on every sentence, cheering her name. Ethan leaned forward, his chest tightening as he whispered hoarsely, "She was always the better half." A single tear traced the line of his cheek before falling to the floor, the only sound in the vast emptiness around him. The same media that had once adored him now glorified her. The woman he betrayed, the wife he underestimated. The empire he had built on charm and control had turned to dust, while Sophia had risen from the ashes. The power he once used to dominate her story now belonged entirely to her. Months later, after Sophia welcomed her baby into the world, a little girl with her eyes and her calm spirit, life felt whole again. Her days were filled with purpose, love, and the steady rhythm of healing. Then one morning, her assistant entered quietly, handing her a note. It was from Ethan. He wanted to meet privately, no press, no agenda. Against Alexander's cautious advice, Sophia agreed. Some chapters she knew needed to be closed in person. When Ethan arrived, he looked like a shadow of his former self. Thinner, quieter, stripped of arrogance. The sparkle of power that once defined him had been replaced by remorse. He stood by the doorway, his voice low and uncertain. "I came to apologize," he said, struggling to meet her gaze. "Not to win you back. Just to tell you that I finally see what I destroyed." Sophia held her baby gently, rocking her in her arms, her expression calm but resolute. "You didn't destroy me, Ethan," she said softly, eyes steady. "You freed me." For a long moment, he said nothing, just nodded, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. Then he turned and left quietly. Outside, cameras captured the moment. Ethan Grant walking away alone, not as a powerful man, but as one finally facing his truth. As the lights shimmered across the grand hall, Sophia stood on stage cradling her baby, her heart full and steady. The crowd before her represented thousands of stories like hers, women who had faced heartbreak and found strength in its aftermath. Beside her stood Alexander, his smile calm and proud, a silent testament to the friendship that had carried them through storms. Their bond wasn't born from rescue or pity, but from respect, two souls who had learned to rebuild, separately yet side by side. The audience erupted in applause as Sophia was presented with an award recognizing her work in empowering women worldwide. Cameras flashed, capturing her serene confidence. When she stepped up to the microphone, the room fell silent. Her voice, soft yet unshakable, carried weight beyond words. "Forgiveness isn't weakness," she said. "It's the moment you decide to stop living in someone else's shadow." The hall filled with emotion, many wiping tears as her words echoed, not just in sound but in spirit. The applause swelled like a wave, rising higher and stronger. In that moment, Sophia wasn't just a woman who had survived. She was a symbol of grace, courage, and the beauty of beginning again. Months later, a renowned journalist revisits the infamous Gala footage in a documentary titled The Kiss That Backfired. The world watches again, the cake, the silence, the confrontation, but now it feels like a victory story. In the interview, Sophia sits poised, her daughter nestled in her arms. When asked if she regrets walking in that night, she smiles, eyes shimmering with quiet confidence. "Not at all," she replies. "That was the moment I walked out of my pain and into my power." Alexander, seated beside her, gives a small nod, pride evident in his gaze. The camera lingers on Sophia, serene, unshaken, free. As the screen fades to black, her final words echo softly. "Sometimes the worst night of your life is just the beginning of your best chapter." The world sees her not as the betrayed wife, but as the woman who rose above it all.